Let's join Heather and our school psychologist and board certified behavior analyst, Chris Zielinski, as they talk about this week's high leverage practice.
Welcome to Little Bits of TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, essential strategies designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired, because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is Little Bits of TLC. Looking for something that actually fits your life? TLC University is here for that. Each week, we spotlight something different. A webinar with real-world insights, a hangout-style interview, and a hands-on workshop or a Q&A where we answer your questions. It's flexible, it's self-paced, and most come with CEUs. So whether you're looking to grow, reflect, or just listen in, there's something here for you. And it's all in one place. university.thresholdlearning.org. That's where you'll find show notes, professional blogs, a full catalog of ACE-accredited courses, and downloadable resources. It all just keeps growing. So whether you're walking the dog, commuting, or taking a breather between the daily grind, TLC University meets you where you are. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org and check out what's new this week. See you then.
Teachers assign students to homogeneous and heterogeneous groups based on explicit learning goals, monitor peer interactions, and provide positive and corrective feedback to support productive learning. Teachers use small learning groups to accommodate learning differences, promote in-depth academic-related interactions, and teach students to work collaboratively. They choose tasks that require collaboration, issue directives that promote productive and autonomous group interactions, and embed strategies that maximize learning opportunities and equalize participation. Teachers promote simultaneous interactions, use procedures to hold students accountable for collective and individual learning, and monitor and sustain group performance through proximity and positive feedback.
This week, we are talking about high leverage practice number 17, using flexible grouping. And Chris, my goodness, I know your background, and you have helped some staff make sense of some very complex student groups, program clusters, and changing as, the school year is going on and different students are coming and going. Gosh, you've really navigated a lot of those social dynamics. So for you and your practice, what does flexible grouping look like?
I say it a lot. You have to be flexible, but you have to be intentional, right? And sometimes people think that those are in opposition, but the reality of it is when you're looking at it, you're seeking to meet learning goals. One way or the other, you're seeking to meet a goal, and you have to be flexible in how you're doing it. When we're looking at it from, a programmatic side, we're going to be looking at data, right? We're going to be looking at the things we want to achieve and accomplish, the objectives, what's the mission, what's the vision, right? What are we wanting our students to walk away with? What are some of those student needs, right? It is not set up by convenience, right? And I see that happening a lot, but there is intentionality, right? And from the student side, if you're a teacher and you're looking at that grouping from the student inside of your classroom, I'm going to tell you, rinse and repeat, right? It's going to be based off of data, right? You have to look at objectives. You're going to have to look at those student needs. It might be convenient to put certain students together, but that might not be your most effective way to go at it. So flexible grouping, it has to be flexible. You have to be willing to shift around and try different things, but you also have to have that level of intentionality and doing it in a way that it is really driven by data and need. Because when you do that, it'll allow you to differentiate, change your intensity levels, establishing social skills, establishing all of these amazing things that you might not otherwise come to, right? And even if you look at social skills as one where someone's like, well, you said social skills. The reality of it is you're looking at those concepts. I might have pairs set up by students where they might be mixed skills. One student is clearly stronger in one thing than another, serves as a great peer model, right? I know that student is going to have a better experience with a peer model than they will be me as an adult as a model, right? And especially if I do not interact a lot with that student, or I don't have a lot of commonalities. Maybe they're a different gender. Maybe their interests are different than my interests. Well, guess what? I might have that level of intentionality of having mixed groups, or I might look at similar skills, similar groups. I might look at pairs. It's all about being flexible and being intentional. What am I looking to accomplish? And in what way can I pivot what I have to get to that for our students? And it's the same thing with programs.
Yeah, so I know when you've done program development, you have just baked this in to how you're even setting up a schedule for the day, how you're setting up your environment. So you've got different rotations happening at different times and which groups are getting
Yeah.
pulled where, when, with who, for what, right? Like, how do you make those decisions? Because I've watched you do that just
Yeah.
flawlessly and you see it and it's just like right there. But help whoever's listening actually get into that mind with you so that they can
Yeah.
start seeing their program, their students in the way that you do.
Mhm. So your groupings, I'll use self-contained programming, right? Let's say I'm working with a self-contained classroom that has students that maybe have some communicative deficits, maybe they're significantly below what their grade or chronological age would suggest, and they have some challenges there that we need to establish some skills. So we might look at how are we going to set up the classroom to have the groupings we need. We know when we walk in that room, I would hope at least, when we walk in that room that we're going to see right off the get-go some visual stimuli that tell me, okay, I have space for a whole group and I've got some small group areas. I might have independent work systems and independent work areas where people can work individually. I'm going to have one-on-one instruction, and I want to make sure play and leisure, data collection. I can keep going on and so forth on the different ones. But the reality of it is, you want to make sure you set up your groups in such a way that not only does everybody contact each of those environments at least once in your classroom, but you want to set up your groups so that way there will be some loading for skills that we want to establish. So, for example, I know that if I'll use play and leisure because I used it as an example before, this routing with a visual schedule or a schedule system they have, I'm going to have students in a variety of areas at one time. The only place I'm not going to have them scattered is when I have them all at whole group instruction. But everything else, small group, I have to think about who's running that, what teacher, what para, what volunteer, what parent who's in there that's if they're doing something even for a holiday activity, how am I going to set those groupings up to establish that skill set in that time to be as effective and efficient as possible? Even something simple like independent work systems. I know that if I have somebody that has a sensitivity to auditory stimuli and I have another student who scripts very loud, I might not have them at the individual work systems at the same time. I might have one student at play and leisure with other students, engaging in those socially mediated behaviors that we want to establish in social skills. We might have another student take on a seat in their independent work system in that time. We might also bring those students back around together for small group because we want to make sure that we're exposing all of our students to all the skills, all the areas, but being flexible with our groupings. And as we establish, right, in the beginning, you might not have those two paired up in the independent work systems, but we also know that what we want to accomplish is that our students are finding their way into the general education classroom. I know that in a general education classroom, you're going to have students that are talking. You're going to have students that are engaging in those behaviors. So, in the beginning, while I'm establishing that tolerance skill with that student, I might never have those two in the beginning of the year at the same independent workstations, working on their independent work systems independently. At the same time, I might work towards that because that is a strategy to getting that student one step closer to that inclusion, that opportunity that they are entitled to. So you have to be strategic, right? There's never and always, because at the end of the day, it really matters. It matters that we are being intentional. We're grouping with intent, right? Whether it's the intent to increase those skill sets in that time because these students work the best together, but we also have to bring that tolerance coin along. It's the only way we're going to get our students to succeed in our classroom and outside as well. We look at those groupings as one of the many tools that you can use to getting to that destination.
You just listed off so many different criteria of how you could select them, locations that you could put them in, and
Yeah.
what they might be doing while they're there. I mean, how the heck do you manage all of that? Right? There's so many different needs and activities and locations and expectations, and then different
Yeah.
staff supporting different things, right?
Right.
That to some is incredibly overwhelming as that classroom leader to, the organized chaos feel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how have you coached and walked alongside those, classroom leaders
Yeah.
to be able to effectively have so many different groups that are meeting so many different needs simultaneously. And that is the beautiful thing about running education like this, right? But
Yeah.
also not feel like they're losing their ever loving mind because
Right.
everything is going on everywhere. Like, how do you find that sweet spot with your people?
Yeah, you gotta teach 2 skills. I found that in education, particularly with special education, the people that are in that field are what I would consider an all in. They are all in all the time, every single time, right? And that is a amazing skill to have. But there's 2 skills I look to establish. Number 1, I have to give you the grace and the ability to pull back from some of that, because in a classroom where you have all those spaces, you have all those working things, you cannot be everyone's everything all the time. So I have to give you the permission sometimes. They feel like they need the permission to step back and say, "Oh, I don't have to be hovering over, Chris and Heather when they're working in the independent work stations that I've established using the systems that were set up specifically for them," right? You have to have that ability to take a step back, right? And oftentimes I feel like special educators, they sometimes need to hear that permission. It's okay to do that. So number 1, I'm going to teach you how to step back. I want you to take a step back and recognize that at any given moment, there are going to be a variety of things that are happening in your classroom, but we establish our systems and we schedule. That's the second thing. So you step back and then you have to schedule. Just as much as your students have a schedule, your staff in your classroom should have a schedule as well. When I walk into a classroom, I always look at the environment. I'm looking for 2 big things right up front. Number 1, do you have all the areas that you actually need? Do you have an area in your classroom in case there's a crisis? Do you have a data collection area? Do you have the physical entity spaces that you need to give the variety of instruction for effective grouping? Number 1. Number 2, what do your schedules look like? What do your student schedules look like? What does your class schedule look like? How are they the same? How are they different? And what are your staff and student schedules different? So your staff, just like a student, should have a schedule of where they're going to be at any given time. And so it's more of a managerial role for the teacher than it is for them solving and putting out every single fire, right? And so I would constantly find where there would be a teacher and a pair, a teacher, 2 pairs in a classroom, small classroom. You'd have special education students there, and they would have all the physical things laid out that they need. The spaces are there. Problem happens over here. Teacher gets up from instruction, walks over there, pairs over there, or even a volunteer is over there, or a contractor is over there, or somebody is there. They walk over, they solve the problem, they walk back. Well, guess what? Now you've got 2 groups that have missed out. You missed out on a teachable moment for that person, a person to generate their skills, who was there, the staff, and then the students that we've left and walked away from. So it sounds like a ton of spaces. It sounds like chaos, but I promise you it's controlled chaos. And it starts with giving yourself permission to step back. Recognize everyone has a job, everybody has a role. We communicate those roles out, we practice those roles, we team the roles, we role play the roles, because I have to rely on those around me because I can't do it all, just like they can't do it all. And then in addition to that, we want to make sure that our schedules align. If I have students go into small group, I already know at the beginning of the day who's going to be there in the afternoon in that part of the day. And so those are the 2 quintessential things when those systems which seem like chaos, you want to make sure you have in place. And you walk your systems. You role play those out. You build that level of familiarization with it. And it's like anything else. The things we do often, we tend to do well. In the beginning, it's hard. Setting up student groups is hard. Setting up groups in the classroom is hard. Setting up our spaces and how we're going to navigate them and then plugging in staff is hard. But I promise you this, it will feel at the beginning of your first year like chaos, like it's not working. Like there's so many pieces and you're already drawn in so many places. But if you utilize those systems, if you look at your grouping and you're selective with how you're doing it with your staff, with your students, just like some students work better with some staff than others on some skills. If we're strategic there and we schedule it out, it allows us to plan for success in that other environment. But by the end of the year, you'll be a lot further along than you are, and you'll be more efficacious because everybody who feels empowered and wants to be there for something can take ownership of what they're there in that moment. That para that's doing one-on-one instruction in that moment will own that one-on-one instruction. And when that para rotates to a small group in the next scheduled transition that we have in the class, and the teacher's now that one-on-one, guess what? That teacher gets to own that, but then the para also gets to own that. And it's this compounding variable, these layers of being effective. And not everybody's going to be great at all those things at once. But we can use our grouping to help train our staff too. I might have 3 students that work very well together, and I'm teaching how to teach small group to this pair as an extension. So I might purposely pair them for the first beginning so as I develop the skills and they get their comfortability, their familiarity with that process. And then I might be able to incorporate and change those skills. And that's a level of grouping that people always think of, well, you're always going to talk about the student. If you have a system with those moving parts, you have to rely on the people around you. Just like the students have to rely on the paras and the teachers, the volunteers, and all those that come in that classroom, even the service providers.
So before we sign off this week, I want to give you a few minutes here to just speak to the person who's trying to build it.
Mm,
Because to hear you paint the picture of what this could be and how this operates and just all the moving pieces, and that it's
mm,
okay, it might feel like chaos, but it's actually working. And like you can walk yourself through seeing, what's working, what's not working, and making those adjustments and just continuing to do that program development. But it doesn't pop up overnight.
no,
Like you cannot just walk in one day and have everything you are talking about up and
no,
running. So I
no.
want to give you a few minutes here before we sign off to really speak to those people that are like, yeah, this sounds great, but holy wow, where do I start?
So, one of the things that I advocate for to help me as a person stay on track, I use checklists. When I go into a grocery store, I'm keeping to the list, right? My wife has taught me that. The reality of it is checklists can help guide us heavily. And there are some really good checklists out there that can help keep you on task. But the reality of it is, if you try and do everything like you said, you're going to burn out. Where do you start? Well, I can tell you this: it is much easier to change the environment than the organism. I know that. I know that to be true. Where do we start? We start with our environment. We start with our systems that we have in that environment. We know that we're going to need grouping. We're going to have different various instructional areas and groups, but I'm going to start with that. And I might be running my railroad how I'm running my railroad. And I might say, systematically, we are going to look at small groups now. And I might be working with my paras to teach them how to get comfortable, to model, to show. How are they going to get comfortable? You have the skills, the capacity to do it. You're there for a reason, right? But I start with the environment and I take those baby steps. You want to make sure you have the spaces carved out in your environment, they're laid out. You want to walk those spaces, sit in those spaces. People don't realize sometimes it's important when you're sitting in an independent work system and you're oriented towards a window, but you didn't realize that the heater right next to you makes a ton of noise. It's very loud. Well, that might not be the best place for that space. You have the space. Now let's alter and move the space. Start with your spaces, then go to your schedules. Because if I can get staff following a schedule, I can get students using their schedule as a functional tool that guides their day. That's less on me being an air traffic controller. I'm not getting up and the paras aren't leading all of these students to where they need to go. I've introduced a tool with consistency and allowed them to utilize that tool. I always start with the environment because it's quicker to change. Sometimes I can roll it all out at once. Sometimes I can be selective, but be honest with yourself. Start with your environment, then go to your schedules. Once you have your schedules and your environment, from there, now you've got the bowl, you've got the vanilla ice cream. Now you're putting the sprinkles. Now you're going to be putting all the other things in place. It's what you do with those environments in those spaces that matter, but you have to have the kids there and you have to have people there. So where do you start? That's where you start. You walk those spaces, you go through it, you work as a team. Start with your environment, start with your schedules.
Thank you so much because these are, the pictures that you are painting with your words are those like ideal
Mhm,
classrooms, instructional moments, right? The reasons that people love what they do.
mhm,
But it is so much work to really get it built and systemized and running
mhm.
in ways that is not just straight chaos. So thank you for not just painting that picture of where it could be and how this could work, but also encouraging like one step at a time, right? Like
Yeah,
you can work in that direction and it will work, but slow and strategic. You'll get there. Thank you for that.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me this week and talking about this high leverage practice. I really appreciate your depth of knowledge and just your compassionate approach to how you're like, hey, no, like it's possible. You can actually make this happen. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Working with students who need long-term individualized support? Project Base is a 4-strand project designed for educators in self-contained classrooms serving students with low incident needs. You'll get step-by-step guidance on building a program that focuses on communication, daily routines, and real-world skill building. From setting up the classroom environment to designing personalized plans, this course helps you create a space where your students can grow and succeed in school and into adulthood. Led by Chris Zielinski and Carly Dietz, Project Base offers practical strategies, case studies, and planning tools to help you confidently support your students every step of the way. If you're ready to strengthen your program and build something that lasts, this project is your next step. If you're supporting emotional or behavioral needs in general ed or resource classrooms, Project Thrive helps you keep learning on track. And if you're in a therapeutic or alternative setting, building something from the ground up, Project Onward offers the structure and tools to do it well. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org to meet your team and begin building your home base today.
Special education teachers master the art of flexible grouping to tailor instruction and address individual student needs. The grouping patterns they use are highly adaptable, shifting between homogeneous and heterogeneous small groups, pairs, whole class settings, and individual instruction as lesson goals and objectives evolve. This dynamic approach not only accommodates diverse learning needs, but also fosters meaningful academic interactions and collaborative skills among students. Research and professional organizations, such as the International Literacy Association and the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, support the use of flexible grouping. Within this framework, special educators often utilize small groups, typically consisting of 2 to 6 students, for targeted intensive instruction. These small groups can be homogeneous, composed of students with similar abilities to tackle specific skills and concepts, or heterogeneous, where students of varying skill levels collaborate on grade level content and enhance interpersonal relationships. Homogeneous groups are particularly effective for concentrated instruction on high priority skills. Teachers design these groups to address short term goals using explicit instruction techniques and strategies to maximize student engagement and response opportunities. Smaller group sizes, sometimes as few as 1 or 2 students, have proven especially beneficial for improving achievement, with added time and focused practice further supporting student mastery. Conversely, heterogeneous groups mix students with different knowledge and skill levels to enrich discussions, facilitate collaborative problem solving, and improve social dynamics. In these groups, teachers set collaborative tasks, promote productive interactions, and ensure all students have equal opportunities to contribute and learn. By monitoring interactions closely and providing consistent feedback, teachers help sustain group cohesion and maximize learning outcomes. Overall, flexible grouping enables special education teachers to meet diverse student needs effectively while enhancing both academic and social development. When it comes to grouping students, teachers constantly adapt their approach based on the specific skills or learning activities they are targeting. These groupings are not static. They shift in response to students' evolving needs, skills, and knowledge. The art of effective grouping lies in the teacher's abilities to make agile, informed decisions that address these needs. This flexibility in grouping is crucial but doesn't operate in isolation. For it to truly enhance student performance, it must be complemented by other high leverage practices or HLPs. For instance, decisions about group size and the instructional methods used within these groups should align with evidence based practices and other HLPs, such as HLPs 2 and 6, which emphasize creating a positive learning environment and using data to form instruction. In essence, while flexible grouping is a powerful tool in itself, its effectiveness is amplified when integrated with a broader strategy of skilled instructional practices. Teachers who excel in using flexible groupings understand the power of adapting their approach to fit students' needs and learning goals. They seamlessly vary group sizes, sometimes opting for whole groups, other times breaking down into smaller clusters, depending on what's more effective for the lesson at hand. They also carefully choose between homogeneous groups, where students with similar abilities work together to tackle specific goals, and heterogeneous groups, where diverse abilities mix to enhance discussions and foster stronger interpersonal connections among students. In practice, these teachers might employ cooperative learning structures like jigsaw or quiz trade to address a wide array of instructional objectives, from academic to behavioral to interpersonal skills. They stay attuned to the dynamics within these groups, closely monitoring both individual learning progress and group interactions. Holding students accountable, both as individuals and as a team, helps strengthen personal responsibility and encourages positive interdependence. By providing varied opportunities for all students to engage actively, these educators ensure that every student remains involved and invested in their learning journey. To truly support teachers in using flexible groupings effectively, school leaders should start by offering comprehensive instruction and professional development focused on the nuances of grouping strategies. It's crucial to observe how teachers implement these groupings in their classrooms and provide targeted feedback to refine their approach, ensuring that the practice meets its intended goals and offers constructive guidance when needed. Encouraging educators, whether they're co teaching partners, solo teachers, or teams, to experiment with various grouping configurations can be incredibly beneficial. Highlight the versatility of flexible groupings, reminding them of the broad range of instructional objectives these configurations can address. Given that managing and implementing flexible groups can be complex, it's essential for leaders to regularly check in with teachers who might be struggling. By helping them pinpoint specific challenges and collaboratively finding solutions, leaders can greatly enhance the effectiveness of this dynamic teaching strategy. Assessing the effectiveness of flexible grouping can be challenging because it involves a range of instructional setups, from individual work to whole class activities, that change based on students' needs and learning goals. Essentially, flexible grouping functions like an intervention package, with its success depending on isolating and studying each component of its implementation. To fully understand its impact, we need more empirical studies that delve into the decision making processes behind flexible grouping strategies. Research shows that both homogeneous and heterogeneous small group arrangements, when designed and implemented effectively, can enhance a range of academic and interpersonal outcomes. For these groups to be successful, they need to be structured with careful selection of goals, tasks, and materials, clear instructional guidance, and strategies to ensure that every student has the chance to engage and contribute equally. As with any teaching practice, it's crucial for teachers to monitor student performance closely, offer timely and constructive feedback, and ensure that students are accountable for their own and each other's progress. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Join us next week when Heather sits down with our school psychologist, Lathrell Eiler, to talk about our next high leverage practice.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow at Threshold Learning TLC on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. Let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that they catch their podcast. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certification and universities preparing them for success. Supervision with TLC offers 100% remote fieldwork supervision designed specifically for school-based professionals. Educators can earn their hours right in their schools without leaving their classroom, all while being supported by experienced BCBAs who understand the realities of education. With month-to-month scheduling, affordable rates, and both live video and asynchronous chat, our fieldwork supervision model is designed to fit into your life, not the other way around. We also invite universities to enhance their graduate programs in partnership with our team of practicing school-based BCBAs. Our fieldwork supervision model keeps students on track for certification by helping them connect their practice to all exam domains so that they can confidently pass the exam. Explore more at university.thresholdlearning.org/supervision or email supervision@thresholdlearning.org to connect. Supervision with TLC, where educators grow into behavior analysts.
I'm a log out here, get myself out of my closet, and be over there running.
Nice.